Mic check 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Good morning, y'all. It is a crispy, colder than what I'm used to out here in sunny San Diego. 7:30 in the morning Pacific Standard Time. It is your boy JR. This is the TSA Hoop Show coming back to you after a 1 week hiatus. Spent some time with the family, y'all. They had went out of town, my wife and my daughter, and so it was dad running solo, unfettered supervision, just nothing all week. And so uh just rest and recover, try to get some things together because we got so many things going on here over at TSA. Um and probably pick the wrong week to not talk about sports because golly, over the last 2 weeks, between the number of injuries that have happened with teams, the weird the weird ending to games, like close finishes for Boston, Denver getting close wins and then not having Jokic for a couple of days, which also personally hurt my fantasy chances in a couple of leagues. Uh, what else has been going on? Geez, Phoenix just struggling with no Kevin Durant right now. There's so many things that we need to talk about right now, but as the theme suggests, we're trying to fix it all. We're trying to save viewership this week. And if you are listening to this on your favorite app for podcasts, don't forget to look up the TSA Hoop Show with JR. Appreciate you guys tuning in today. Before we go any further, we can't do this without thanking our sponsors, Drafters Fantasy app, where you can put your favorite lineup, do your pick'ems, and try to win some money. Don't forget to add the Drafters Fantasy app on your favorite mobile device, where if you add the code TSA Bets, you can get your initial deposit matched up to $100. That's the Drafters Fantasy app, y'all. And we also can't go any further without thanking you guys, the watchers, the listeners, the subscribers to this channel, listeners on your favorite podcast app, particularly Spotify, uh, and for adding us on your favorite social media channels as well. Um, we also got to thank guys like our guests. We've had some few guests in the last couple of weeks. Coach Craig, we had at Hot Take George a couple weeks ago. We might even have a special guest on right now. Hold on, let me see if he's available right now. Hey, Hot Take, give me a thumbs up if you're there, sir. He's still fixing his camera. We're getting them together. Don't worry. We'll bring him on in just a second, but we have the guys from TSA come over. We're gonna have some guys come through, but we're trying to fix stuff today. And we didn't go over anything last week. It was a couple weeks ago. We got some things coming up, but we're just gonna jump right into it because, like every week, we only got an hour. We're trying to do our best. All right, so we're just gonna go ahead and add them in real quick.
Yo,
There.
yo.
What up? Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yeah, I know you. I know it's a little bit later where you at.
Oh,
You
you
got
see it?
work and everything like that. But appreciate you joining us today. For those of you who don't know, is my man G to the EORGE. They call him gorgeous. I don't know. If you follow him on X, formerly known as Twitter, it is at Hot Take City, as the name in the marquee suggests. Helped us out a few weeks ago when we were trying to start this season out. We were trying to pick apart his Knicks, who are kind of right there in the middle. We're going to get your take on that, sir. But right now, major discussions on viewership in the NBA. And as an avid viewer yourself, man, I just got to get a take from you since you always give us the nice hot takes. You got any ideas on how this thing gets fixed? Because right now it's a little bit broken, sir.
Well, you got hockey going on, you got football going on, and
Mhm.
basketball going on. So like, once they get past the football season, a lot of fans start to watch. They don't really start watching basketball until, you know, February, right after the Super Bowl. You want the honest
Facts.
truth. Because here's the problem, right? 90% of America is always going to watch football. Okay? Then you have your 10% that doesn't watch football and watches basketball. So until they're able to compete with football, their viewership's not going to be there until football is over with.
I hear you.
So,
I hear you. Yeah, and I think you touched on a good point there. It's early season for any of the big four. Early season viewership it seems like it's been sort of reserved for the avid watcher of that sport for across all the big four because I know that as basketball goes on, no one's really watching spring baseball, so that gets shut down until it gets closer to playoffs, and that's the conversation that I'm hearing across all sports. So I could definitely see that, and the NBA in turn tried to fix that by introducing what is now known as the Emirates NBA Cup, formerly known as the in-season tournament, and it did okay as far as trying to have people tune in, try to get teams and players to sort of give that playoff vibe of basketball early on in the season. But within the law averages, we're looking at the totals overall as far as viewership for the season. It did not improve it uh, much. It maybe put a band-aid on what essentially is bleeding in viewership of the NBA. I mean, we're talking about something where they keep kind of throwing the kitchen sink at this idea. We're getting a new format for the All Star game already for the upcoming All Star game. No talking about it. They put it together. They said we're going to do this for coming up in February. That we're going to change the format. They're introducing a mini tournament of some sort.
yeah, I
So
think it's
tournaments
four
are
teams.
yeah, and it seems to be the way to go. Changing a lot of stuff. Who knows if it's for the better? But they don't seem to be sticking to some of their solid experiments. And between the Emirates Cup, the All Star Game, and some of our own favorite teams, I'm just trying to. I'm wondering if they're missing what the bottom line is. I mean, you kind of go back
Well,
and look at
my
what
biggest
they've been.
thing is, sorry to cut you off, JR,
You're
but
good.
Here's the thing though. When you have a game every day, okay,
Mm,
on basketball, pretty much, you
mm,
pretty much have a game every day, Monday through Monday, pretty much there's a game every day, right? So
true.
when you start, when you're able, like football, for an example, right? There's only games Thursdays, Sundays, and Mondays, right? So
True.
that Thursday night game, for football, a lot of people are going to tune into that because that's the only football game on.
True.
Monday
Unless they do
night,
that
same thing.
thing.
Yeah,
Unless they do that weird thing where it's two.
yeah. Monday night, same thing. 90% of the time, it's one football game on. Well,
True.
what they did for football and what they did to help the viewerships, I promise you, Red Zone has more viewership than a single football game on Sunday.
This
So
is absolutely true.
if they were able to incorporate something for basketball that does something like that to where they're able to, you know, do a red zone type thing for basketball, they
Mm.
would have a lot more viewerships.
Now, it's interesting that you mentioned that because, all right, so this is going to be a little bit of a backstory, and it's going to tie into something that I was going to address as well. So, a little bit of backstory. I used to write for another website a long time ago. Um, and one of the guys that actually was one of the founders of that website had this idea of what you see in the NBA today, in which or at least on the NBA app, where they introduce and there's a tab where you can see all the scoring plays of a game. And now every app has essentially developed just the scoring play. So if you go back and you go on Amazon or whatever, you can watch particularly the scoring plays of that game, no matter what sport it is, to be able to catch up. Because the right now we're all drawn to action, right? We want to see what got us to this point as far as the score of this game, which is all good in its theory. Um, and I mention that because listen to NBA channel on Sirius XM every morning going into work, right? And one of the things that was talked about was how we consume our basketball. So basketball heads like me, I want to do more than just watch who scored, but that's particularly me. But to your point, I think that a lot of people want to try to find out quickly how we got here. So I think great novel idea. But one of the things I was going to say is that I just believe that the NBA has sort of phased the the OGs out as far as viewers of basketball. I talked about this with someone else out when I was out there in the world, that they basically distanced themselves and cut off the ability of guys like me to be able to pass on the ways that we watch our basketball. The guys that go to work, come home, sit on the couch, turn on the second half of a game with their family there, without their family there, and then and those kids are able to consume basketball with their parents the same way I did with my parents or with my dad. And they've done that in several ways. They've sort of moved they selling to these local markets, the local markets that have the ability to block out certain people from being able to watch those local teams. I live in San Diego. I can't watch the Lakers. Absolutely crazy thing. Unless I add a certain platform, subscribe to a certain app service, pay a lot of money, and it's
that's
phase the local viewer out
That's
financially.
literally what I was gonna say
Yeah,
because all of these professional sports, even baseball, is starting to do it now, and it's starting to get
yeah.
annoying. All these
Starting to see a
like
lot of it.
like you said, we're not our kids, aren't able to sit down with us and just pull on
Nope.
the local TV and watch sports like we were with our father. You know what I'm saying? So like think about it, all like the OGs that, don't know anything about streaming, that don't know how to use streaming, that live on their own, you know what I mean? They're not going to be able to pull up, Amazon Prime Video and hey,
Exactly.
let me get, let me pay $10 a month or whatever it is to, you know, buy this streaming service to watch these sports or
Exactly.
Peacock or Paramount Plus. Like, yeah, we know how to because that's what we were raised with and that's what we
Hmm.
learned,
Right.
to use and stuff. But like my father till today, he's 60 years old and he asked me, "Hey dad, how do you download Peacock or how do you like, what I'm saying? They don't know. They don't know how to do
Exactly.
any of that. So you're
Exactly.
going to all these streamings, which is cool. It's fine. Don't get me wrong. Y'all are trying to bring more money to the sport, but you just lost a lot of viewerships because a lot of viewers are not going to pay that subscription to watch these sports.
It's true. It's true. I mean, even those of us that are tech savvy are trying to find ways to cut corners because the talk was cut the cable, right? We want, because this was like railing, the streaming apps originally were created with the idea that we were going to be railing against the cable companies that had us paying $150, $160 for our cable and satellite packages to be able to watch uh fights. That's where it all started, right? And so we said we're going to cut that, our favorite movies, we're going to cut all that, and what we're going to do is we're going to end up we're just going to mainly focus on trying to get as much content as possible to the consumer. We're going to keep that immediate. We're going to keep that right here, and we're going to keep it at a low cost because no one wants to pay that egregious amount of money for watching their favorite movies and sports, which we all agreed upon. We were all on board. But nowadays, those same apps flip the script, increase their subscriptions, and now it's the same thing as it was no more than 10 years ago. Okay. And because of that, we're finding ways to find illegal and pirating streaming services. So we're going right back to splitting that cable cord with our neighbor and trying to get free cable, quote unquote. But instead, we're trying to get free games. And not only is it because we don't want to pay that amount of money, but it's just hard. Like, I would pay the money if it was right, but even when I pay the money, I can't see my favorite games. I can't see my favorite team. And I'm saying, like, one of the ways that we could have fixed that is by opening up the floodgates, finding a way for guys like us to just be able to come home, flip on our TV, which is all digital. It's connected to Wi-Fi now. It's not connected to a cable, but find a digital channel that has access to a local channel to find local market games. Because you're still getting money from commercials. I mean, ad buys are absolutely through the roof, and it's part of the reason why we got BB Go for Lakers and what is it, Vista Paint for Boston, as far as companies investing in these teams. But it makes no sense for you to be getting all that money and just keeping it. If you go back and reinvest in the market's just the people are going to pay you back. Because what we want to do at the end of the day as avid sports fans is be able to come and relax and see one game.
Yeah, I mean, with me being in the South and me being a Knicks fan, even a Giants fan or even a Yankees fan, I can't watch none of those sports on local channels.
Mm.
So instead of me using a streaming device, I just pull up a legal site to watch those sports because, even if I did have a streaming site, they're not going to be in my area anyways because the streaming sites go off of the local, channels in the area.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's a prime time game, then that's different, obviously.
Right.
You know what I mean? But the Giants play at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm not going to be able to pull that up on either local or streaming unless I have, you know, the red zone package, which is $700 to pay to be able to watch the Giants. Or if I get the NBA pass, which is another $300, you know what I
Mm.
mean, to watch any NBA game I wanted to, I'm not doing that. And then or the MLB pass, which is $55, I think, a month, if I'm not mistaken, okay, to watch the Yankees. I mean, it's starting to get ridiculous with these streaming prices. So a lot of these viewers, they're not able to pick up as viewerships because they're using illegal sites to view these games, especially if they're out of market.
And I'm trying to be good with the diet and everything like that, but it feels like we're being pushed back to watching everything at the bars.
Yep.
And some of these local bars aren't friendly to our teams. I mean, I'm in Clipper Nation right now.
Oh yeah. But
So,
it's not even about being friendly. It's about, when you walk into a bar, especially, where you're at, right? And you're in San Diego, you said, right? So when
mhm,
you walk into a bar, the chances of you finding the Lakers on TV is going to be, 1% chance.
very much so. Very
Unless you
much so.
go to a Laker bar in San Diego.
That's just facts. Like, unless it's the only game on, or if it's one of those primetime games, 39 games, by the way, nationally televised games for the Lakers, which is one of the most of all the teams. But that's a whole other thing. But I could walk into any bar, and bars are primarily focused on what's going to make the money right now, which is football, right?
Yep.
Because they know that, as you mentioned earlier in the program, we're not watching basketball until February. That's just fact. We're not watching it until the Super Bowl is over. Okay. And even then, NFL is going to try its hardest to maintain some sort of market image with within the viewers to try to make sure to remind them, oh, don't forget, tune in next season for part two of whatever drama, whatever referee filled drama that they decide to unfold this season for the Super Bowl. And it's hard to fight against that when you walk into a bar and everyone's just taking their NFL jerseys off, and specifically in this city, half of them are taking their NFL jerseys off of their favorite local teams and putting on their Padres jerseys. Skip basketball season out completely. They're like, oh, we got time off now. Now we can wait until spring training comes
Well,
up.
look at a lot of the advertisements. A lot of the advertisements are around football. Like here at the
Mm,
restaurant, okay,
yeah.
we don't advertise for basketball. We advertise for
Nope.
football, though.
Yep.
Okay. So 90% of these restaurants in the world always advertise for football, whether it's, for liquor or beer, or whether it's food, or whether
Yep.
it's, whatever it is, 10% off if your team wins or whatever. You know what I mean? So a lot of these restaurants around the world, they advertise for football and football season only because they know that football brings in the viewerships and the money more than basketball does until it's almost playoff time for
Mm.
basketball. You know what I'm saying? So that's the
And
biggest problem.
and and again, that is like low. I feel like that's low hanging fruit. Like media can seriously help the NBA right now by granting the keys to open up the viewership everywhere because and I know this would hurt some businesses because like we just mentioned the bars and that would drive away some consumers like myself who would be able to get things at home because if you're old enough if you've been collecting or just you got local liquor you got a place to get beer like on every single corner here in San Diego so you basically can get the bar at home but we go for the vibe. I think it would create a bigger buzz if you're able to bring in the same number of people that will watch football in groups. Everyone gets their jerseys on. That you would do the same for NBA teams. And it's I say all that because you mentioned something and we're gonna kind of segue into the next part of this as far as fixing the NBA here. And if you guys are just tuning in, this is the TSA Hoop Show with Jr. Got my boy Hot Take on the line right now. Decided to join us this crisp early morning. At least it's crisp here on the West Coast. I don't know how
It's
crisp it
nice.
is.
It's nice over here.
um, but you mentioned the number of available NFL games, and they play, as you mentioned, unless it's flexed out or if it's a holiday week, like it tends to happen, 3 days a week: Thursday, Sunday, Monday. That's it. NBA access every day. There's this idea of quantity over quality over quantity, right? Because
Hmm.
you only have if you're an NFL team, what is it? Now 17
17
chances,
games. Yeah.
17 chances to win a game, which 17 versus 82 is a significant number, right? And you said that, and I want to touch on this real quick because we also talked about the MLB a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
MLB has 182 games.
182 games. So you have two a days. You have prime opportunity, and I think this is some of the thinking of some of the more common consumer for sports. I always have an ability to watch baseball. I always have an ability to watch basketball. I don't always have the ability to watch my favorite team for the NFL.
Yep.
And I think when they're talking about in the players committee with the NBA PA when they're talking about trying to adjust things as far as Adam Silver is concerned, and the topic of less games keeps coming up. I know that the old heads keep talking about, oh, you can play an 82 game season. Oh, you can play an 82 game season. You're healthy enough to play an 82 game season. I don't think health is a concern anymore. I think being able to say, you know what, we're going to give the people less chances to be able to watch their favorite NBA team. I think that would drive us consumers insane because now we have less opportunity. Our teams have less opportunity to get into the playoffs.
Yep.
That's that's less of a percentage of us being able to view some of these great games. De'Aaron Fox just dropped 60 and 49 in 2 games.
And I had
60 and
no
49.
idea until I seen it on X. So
Exactly. Exactly. And now you're telling me there's less of a chance that I'm going to be able to see that. Darren dropped 60. Who dropped and we had a 50 burger as well that same night that he dropped 60. Absolutely insane. You get less opportunity and then limit the number of days per week. I think what would happen is you get more of a schedule, you get less of a scheduling issue. It would actually help the local venues to be able to say, because that's what helps with the advertising. They know that they're going to bring you in on Sunday.
yep.
You're going to go to church in the morning. You're going to switch out your stuff because you're going to go to early service, right? You're going to get out. You're going to throw your gear on. You're going to go to either your local watering hole, your favorite watering hole, which is like 15, 20 minutes away. You're going to hang out with your buddies. You're going to be there for 3 hours. They gear it specifically towards the scheduling of your game, they could do the same thing for NBA games. They know NBA is going to be played Tuesday. I had a bar I used to go to in Orange County. Taco Tuesday, Lakers games. Bam! It was a given. Okay,
Yeah,
you get a lot of basketball people there. All Lakers
100%
fans were
agree.
there, and that I think would not just drive up viewership because okay, yeah, that's a bunch of people watching in one bar, but all part of that revenue actually gets paid back through whoever the local beer sponsor is for that local bar, which then gets kicked back all the way up. It's like, oh, why are we generating revenue? Oh, because this local area is playing a lot more Laker games. That also then spreads out because the local houses watch Laker games, and it just circles back up.
Well, think about it this
The
way,
NBA,
J.R.
I don't even
Think
think
about it this way: March, April, June, July. What
mm,
sports are on those 4 months in those sports?
hockey and basketball.
Okay, but towards okay, so July, June, August. What sports are in that month? The end of basketball.
The
Okay,
start of baseball.
start of baseball. So why does baseball viewership throughout those 3 months have more than basketball in the regular season? Because there's
Three
no
things.
other sports being
No,
played
no other
at the
sports being
same
played.
time.
Well, MLB's got to kind of contend with the WNBA, but that's a whole other conversation.
Well, yeah, but it goes to that too. I mean, the WNBA probably this year probably had the most viewerships they've had in the last 5 or 6 years, right?
True, true,
But why? Because they made Caitlin Clark as a hero and they made Angel Reese as a villain, and they
true,
wanted to promote it that way. You understand what
true,
I'm saying?
true.
So my thing is you got baseball in these 3 months by itself, pretty much, and
Mm-hmm,
they have viewership those three
mm,
months more than the NBA throughout the regular season
mm,
because of there's no other sports being played. When you try to cram three sports into certain months, it's not going to work. Because come February, I mean, come November, December, and January are your three biggest months for football, hockey, and basketball. Because yeah, they might say, oh, the regular season for basketball, some of those games might be meaningless, but at the end of the day, every game matters. Every game matters, and those games that might seem meaningless in December might make a difference whether your team makes a playoff or not come February, March.
mm-hmm. And it all matters. Again, I mentioned earlier, quality over quantity, right?
I think they should go to a 40 game season.
Oh, shit. Yeah,
Cut the season in.
those are lockout numbers, sir.
I'm saying cut the season in half. You know what I'm saying? And you could have all of these stars that you're paying,
mm,
top dollars to play the whole season and not,
mm,
you know, as us as fans,
mm,
go to a game and
mm.
I'm just going to use him as an example. Oh, LeBron's not playing tonight. He's taking a day off. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's not hurt. He's not injured. He
He's
just
just
needs
taking
the
a day off.
day off, because he's played 4 days in a row.
Mm,
So we just paid $600 for these seats
to see
to see
LeBron.
to see
LeBron.
LeBron,
Yeah.
one of the greatest to ever play,
Yeah.
but we're not going to be able to
And
see him because he's taking a day off.
again, quality over quantity. You mentioned that. I got something for you. I think one of the big problems with the NBA, we had this, and I made these notes, and I probably made them. I was probably angry at the time. Maybe I felt a little old, but let's talk about star power real quick. I mean, you mentioned the 40 game thing, how much we're paying these, how much these athletes are being paid. I want to go ahead and preface that I'm not paying these athletes 40 million a year. Cat with that big bag of 2-0 something, just barely showing up. Big
Stop,
Bodega
man.
been killing. Big Bodega been killing it. By the way, he's been carrying my fantasy team. But we mentioned star power, and one of the biggest problems I saw, and it's coming back to rear its ugly head. It's one of the main topics of conversation is the manufacturing of star power that the NBA had. Right. So we all know the story. LeBron James coming out of high school, the magazine covers and from 6 months prior to him coming into the NBA to today. Okay. NBA decided to do what? They decided to go ahead and say, we're gonna put together stars that the league is gonna watch for years to come. And it sort of worked with LeBron James being at the head of that because he's going at scoring title after scoring title. His physical gift made people wow. What he had as far as having a football build, being a basketball player, changed the idea of the NBA to basically get bigger. A lot of guys at the 2 and 3 position got physically bigger, Kobe Bryant included, in order to
Yep.
guard LeBron James over the course of the first 6 seasons that he was in the NBA. But then on the other side, we started to see things like ignoring the existence of budding teams. So like OKC did a great job what it what it did because all the guys that they put together, these guys like ran through. They had that great run against the Lakers their initial season with Russ, KD, and Harden, right? Crazy season, lost in the first round. Then they come back a couple years later, same group, get through the rest of the Western Conference, which was absolutely amazing to do. These guys were starting to become actual stars, but the NBA never really got behind them as giving them the same type of platform that LeBron James had. They were still getting off of the Kobe Bryant. They were still pushing behind LeBron James. They were pushing behind other stars and not these guys. It kept manufacturing these situations, uh, kept getting it to where it was LeBron versus anyone, LeBron versus anyone, LeBron versus anyone, whether it was calls, whether it was ability, whatever. And it's not to take anything away from the player that LeBron is, but the NBA lost its focus on being able to nationally raise the viewership of all its stars.
Uh-huh.
It lost viewership on the All Star game because players stopped showing up, stopped playing well. Competition started to decline. And because of the introduction of new rules to try to improve its offense, manufactured the hell out of some stats. Yeah, we're breaking records today, but that's because players are so much. It's so much easier for players to score. The pace has im, improved. I don't want to say improved as a positive sense. Increased. The pace of players has increased. The
Defense
offensive
has
output
increased.
it defense has decreased. A lot of these stats have gone through the roof because, as we mentioned earlier in the show, talking about the particular points of just watching scoring plays, the way that players are playing, big men shooting a higher volume of 3 pointers than are normally see from the position. It's basically gotten out of hand to where the NBA is trying to change itself to be the NBA is trying to be the red zone, a red zone version of itself. It always comes
I'll,
back to bite teams in the ass.
I'll give you an example. You ready?
Yeah,
And you know this. I'm a Yankees fan, and a lot. They lost in the World Series, right? There
yeah.
was only three teams in the playoffs that had over hundreds of millions of dollars in payroll, and that was the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Mets. Everyone else was a small market team,
Oh
having
wait,
27, maybe one more
Padres.
team, maybe
I think
Padres. Yeah, okay,
Padres are the other
but
one.
the rest of them were a small market team.
Yeah.
So it goes back to the NBA as well. When you have a market like LA, a market like Golden State, a market like New York, when
Mm-hmm.
with Brooklyn and the Knicks there, you know what I mean? When you have these bigger markets and you have a small market team like OKC, or you have a small market team like what's the team I'm thinking of? Orlando. Orlando's a very small market team.
Very,
Okay. So when you compare these teams, and you go across the board, there's not a salary cap in the NBA. It's a luxury tax. So the luxury tax, I can go give LeBron James 500 million and still able to afford, you know, a Kevin Durant at $200 million because there's no
Mm-hmm.
salary cap. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
luxury tax, and the owner has to come out of pocket and pay that. Yeah, they
Mm-hmm.
tweaked it a little bit to try to make it fair enough for all of these teams to able to bring in bigger stars and or have bigger stars want to sign with them, but it still favors these bigger markets. I mean, New York and LA bring in at least just just throwing numbers out here. They bring in at least $1 million a day in those cities, of
True.
revenue. You know what I'm
True.
saying? We're just throwing numbers. I don't know exactly how much it is, but I'm pretty
Probably
sure,
way more.
it could. Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I'm just saying, I'm just throwing out a million out there. But when
Yep.
you bring in a million a day and you got 365 days in a year, we're talking 365 million
Yep.
on minimum that they're bringing in a year. So they're
True.
able to afford these bigger stars in these bigger
True.
markets and bring in,
Something.
so I'm gonna be able to see the Knicks and the Lakers and Golden State on national television more than I am with these smaller market teams because
Mm.
they don't have the money to afford these national television games because these teams still have to pay for these commercials or sponsorships that they get
Yep.
through the teams.
Yep. And of course that's where the revenue sharing and TV ad contracts come into play, that we're going to see much more so next season because now there's a stupid amount of money being rolled into the NBA that's going to last the NBA for about the next 10 years or so. Um, but even more so to the point of big bag, little bag. Again, if you get the money to invest into your product as a whole, if the contract, if someone's there whispering in your ear, yeah, we're giving you money for the NBA, but we want to make sure that you particularly invested in these particular 5 teams. Okay, I get that. But find a way to diversify viewership. We have, we, okay, so I'm sure you
Go
and I
ahead.
can talk about stars from 2005 and before across 20 teams in the NBA.
Yep.
That's 66% of the NBA where we can talk about players that were on these teams. Or remember this player, this player, this player from that team from about 2005 and before. Night almost 20 years later, almost 2 decades
I
later.
can't I can't name one player on the
And
Detroit
that's
Pistons.
my point
So
right there.
you want the
That's my
honest truth.
point right there.
Now, do I know? I know of him because I know he was doing good for a couple weeks straight. You know what I mean? Damn, now I forgot his name. But um, but that's
On
the
the
thing
Hawks,
though. No, on the Pistons. What's his name?
Cade?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Cade Cunningham.
you know what I'm saying? I know he had a good 2 week stretch, but
Mm,
that's the thing though. So when you don't have this, when they don't promote this guy, you're not gonna know about him. You understand what I'm saying? So on the Hawks, you have Trey Young.
Yep.
Orlando, you have Pablo. You know what
Yep.
I'm saying? But can you name these other players? No, you can't. The Lakers? No, I can name 7 players on the Lakers because they promote it that way. I can name
Mm-hmm.
5 players on the Warriors. They promote it that way.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Same for the Knicks because we
And
talked about it all off season.
exactly. And
That
the
was the
biggest
news.
thing about the NBA, JR, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. It's all about the media too. And
Mm.
what I mean by that is them getting rid of TNT and that cast for TNT
Oh.
and is going to be the biggest downfall of the NBA because that cast is what made that
Funny,
what.
funny you mentioned that. They mentioned that the team's coming back on ABC now, which is gonna be weird, but they're gonna.
Yeah,
I think
but
they're getting a new contract, but still,
ABC is
same
part of
thing.
okay, so ABC is part of ESPN, right? ESPN owns ABC, right? Which Disney owns all of that. That's besides the point. So they're not going to be able to do what they did on TNT on ABC because ABC is going to monitor what they can do and what they're not able to do. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
just saying, them losing TNT. I think me personally, that crew on TNT, yeah, they might still have that crew on a different channel, but losing that crew on TNT and letting that crew do what they do, it's just gonna hurt them even more.
yeah.
So
Hmm.
I'm just being honest with you.
So you know we touched on the star power a little bit, and we We gutted this 40 minutes out so far, and I mean, we talked a little bit about solutions, and we're trying to fix stuff right now. So let's flip it from giving our problems to giving our answers, and let's get a little bit more focused. I mean, you being a Knicks fan right now, and you know where you guys are at. I know where my Lakers are at right now. Um, so let's talk about your Knicks real quick right now. And they just won a close game. You guys just won a close game against Brooklyn last night, if I remember
Yeah, last
correctly.
night.
We won
24,
by two,
124. Yeah, 124,
before
122.
122. Um, so you got some things going on
Without
with
Cat,
your.
without Cat. So
Uh, that's correct. That's correct. Speak on it. Speak on it. We got a couple of things going on. I just gotta get your thoughts on what's going on and what needs to be fixed for your Knicks in order to get up there and beat teams like Cleveland. You know.
so I don't know what's going on with Cleveland. I think Garland found his groove again. Okay. I think
Yep.
all that stuff that he took that he took last year about Garland's wash, it's Mitchell's team. Garland, they should trade Garland. They should get rid of Garland. Baze. Garland found his groove again. So
Mm.
he's on a tear right now, and he's out to show the world that he's still, one of the top 10 point guards in the league right now. You know what I mean? So, but as far as the Knicks, man, I just, I mean, there's not that many issues. It's just about learning about each other. It's just learning about how they need to play as team ball instead of running the ball through Brunson the whole time. Because here's the thing, right? Yeah, Cat the other night he dropped 40, almost 40 points, or if not 40 points against Philadelphia. Yeah, Philadelphia, they haven't been that great. They're like 1-15 on the year, or 2-15 on the year, whatever they are, you know. But we're gonna play a lot better centers than Embiid, and Cat is gonna have to, not able to drop 40 bombs. And Brunson and Josh Hart the other day was 17 points or 17 rebounds and like 14 points. I mean, we got small forwards out rebounding centers. Let's be honest here. Like it's once they find that chemistry and they're able to work that team ball, I think we'll be fine. Right now, I think Brunson's hand still hurts from that surgery.
Yep.
He's not 100% Brunson yet. You know what I mean?
Mm-mm.
But I'm not gonna lie to you. Am I upset that we got rid of Randall and Dante? Of course, I wanted to see Nova together. But also on the other hand, I think with the Cat trade, it helps us in the long run because look at last year. Last year we didn't have a real center, and with Embiid and with Miles from Indiana, you know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Those having not that big man playing center,
Yep.
that also hurt us a lot too. Because
It,
if we had a decent center, even Mitchell, I would have taken at that time. If Mitchell didn't get hurt, I think that Indiana series is different, and I think we win that Indiana series last year.
100%, 100% agree because those Pacers, man, they just kept walking down Broadway,
Well,
literally.
when you got five guys on the court and they're my height and maybe 6'8" at most, I mean
Mm-hmm.
6'7" at most, you know what I mean? When you got a
They,
7 foot center, that's easy work for him.
it's
You know what I
hard to
mean?
it's hard to challenge teams at the rim with that. And to note, yeah, you had DiVincenzo who was grit and grind to this day for y'all. You had Hartenstein who tried to play his best until he got injured in what was that, the second game of
Yeah, he
the
hurt
semis?
his elbow and shoulders. You know what I'm saying?
Um
Then
and
Mitchell,
Mitchell,
we lost Mitchell with a knee injury to
yep.
the prior series in Philly, with Embiid with the Embiid thing. So we had a lot of injuries, yes, but we didn't have that true
Mm,
center. You
center.
know what I mean?
Big man.
Isaiah is great. Don't get me wrong, but his defense is not there. You know what
No.
I mean? He's a great offensive center, but his defense
Hmm.
is not there. Mitch
Hmm.
was a great defensive center, but his offense was not there.
So it's always good
Cat,
balance there.
exactly. So Cat gives you a little bit of that balance to where
Hmm.
he is better. than Mitchell on defense a little bit, but he's also
Mhm.
better than Isaiah on offense. So he does give you that balance a little bit. And he's able to spread the court some too, to where he can come out and shoot that mid range shot or shoot that 3-point shot. You know what I'm saying? So Isaiah was never able to shoot a 3-point shot. I think he went 1 for 13 his whole career with the Knicks or in the NBA so far, with 1 for 13 for 3 pointers. And that one shot was that halftime shot in the playoffs against Philly where he made it with 4 seconds left on the clock. I'm
Now,
serious. I'm not trying to be funny.
keep in mind, Hardenstein is still out,
Yeah,
and
that too.
they keep. I think that the date keeps moving back as far as his development to be available, uh, for play for OKC,
So
which
they
is
went and paid
crazy.
him 260 million, I think.
He did the work to earn that
Yes,
check,
he earned, by all means, he's definitely earned it. But
and
we would have had to pay him similar amount of money for him to
mm-hmm,
stay in New York, okay?
yep,
And we would have been out Isaiah Mitchell,
yep,
Isaiah and Mitchell to start off the season, and we would have had no center, and we would have been running Jericho Sims as our center until one
yep,
of those guys came back as healthy. So I
and
think, me personally, Leon Rose, he cooked by trading
that
Randall and Dante to Minnesota to go get Towns.
got the money available, got the space available to be able to take on that big contract for Cat.
And I like the pickups we picked up. Payne on the bench, a lot of these younger stars, but also, Miles Miles has stepped up, man. Miles has stepped up a lot, and he has earned that right to take over for Brunson when they bring Brunson out the game.
I
He's
forgot you guys got Cam, man.
yeah.
Um, Now taking a look at the squad right now, Knicks sitting fourth in the East, 5 games back of second behind Boston. Which for this season, you always look at the champs, what they did, it's copycat league. Um, and I'm going to talk about two teams at the same time in parallel. So we got Boston on one end, who most of us, and I'm going to completely admit this, thought that they were going to be 11-3 should be leading the league right now, or at least should be leading the East. 11
It's
and 3
not.
should be leading the East. So whatever of MJ's secret stuff that Cleveland decided to consume before the season, keep doing it. Stay healthy. Prove us wrong. Be consistent. But I'm not talking about y'all right now. We talk about missing big men. We talked about Hartenstein for a little bit. OKC is missing both of its big men right now because Chet is now out for the foreseeable future with that hip
Yep.
injury, which is huge for a big man like that. And I know because I have hip issues that I get physical therapy for. But on the other side, OKC seems to be pretty successful at what they're doing with their small ball shtick, playing a little bit faster, but they seem to be keeping on pace at least a little bit more with Cleveland than they are with Boston. How close do you think the Knicks are to catching one of those top three teams right now?
So I think it's a 4-team race in the East. I think it's going to be Cleveland, Boston, Knicks, and Indiana. I don't think any other team in the East is going to be able to compete come playoff time because they're
Really?
either going to be,
That's saying a lot because Atlanta's been doing some surprising things
yeah,
this
but
season.
look at who does Atlanta have besides Trey Young and Dante? Not even Dante Murray. Who'd they trade for?
Oh, well,
Didn't
they
they
got
trade
rid
for
of
someone?
DeJounte, who's out with a hand injury. They ended up picking up from that what's his name that just went off for like 29 the other day. I'll tell you right now. Hold on, I need to look it up.
Well,
I don't have a productions guy, so
I don't think they have enough firepower to compete with these teams that have multiple players to able
Dyson
to
Daniels.
yeah, exactly.
Dyson Daniels. Um but they're doing some surprising things. They finally got their number one overall pick, by the way. Number one overall pick, Zachary Ricochet. They finally got him some playing time. He's finally starting to do better. He's not the best rookie right now, but they're getting improvements at that position. So they're not completely bad right now. It's such a crazy mixed bag. I mean, when you're winning games, when you're winning close games against Boston, you got to be somewhere in the positive direction, right? I mean, I know some championship teams are like, we're going to win,
Boston's still missing Porzingis too. So
but still, like they were on pace. I believe that Boston was going to go. I think they were going to lose one game by this point in the season. It was one or two, but I thought that those two games were going to be one of those tweaking kind of games because it was so early on in the season. And some teams, although we talked about how teams are being more involved in the Emirates Cup and the Emirates Cup games, I believe that some teams kind of want to feign that they care, but they're still with that championship mentality of we need to be prepared for February 15th
yeah,
when things start to turn up, when all the trades start to happen, when teams really start to gear up for pushing towards the playoffs. So Boston, I thought, was a team to pace at this point in time. And Atlanta is beating that team, that just came off a championship that's supposed to be, oh, we're getting revenge against the media and everyone else who doubted us from last season and all that stuff from the Olympics. And Boston is not shooting at a clip that that we saw last year. Boston is not competing at a clip that we saw last year. Boston is getting outpaced, outgained by a Cleveland team that all they did was get healthy. That's all they
yeah.
did, and change their head coach. Those two
Hmm.
things. They change their head coach, and they're shooting at a higher clip. Cleveland is leading the league in offense right now. What
I think Cleveland comes back down to earth here in a little bit. I
four,
don't think they keep up this pace, and you know,
four teams, and you guys think that you're one of them? All you need to do is get healthy. That's going to fix it.
I mean, not really so much healthy. We're pretty much healthy without Mitchell, but once Mitchell comes back, that helps our defensive side on our starting roster because I think they end up starting Mitchell and Towns. You know, and
Side
this
by
way it
side.
spreads, yeah, and it spreads the court more. And it gives us another piece by Josh Hart going to the bench and coming in on that second team. You know,
Mm. Now the league is on its head right now. Some surprising things to just note that finally Denver's looking okay. They said at the eighth spot right now. Phoenix is on again, off again. But of all the teams that need fixing right now, two teams come to mind: Minnesota and my team, the Lakers. You being an avid NBA fan, first of all, how are you fixing Minnesota right now? Because what is wrong with Minnesota? They're losing games by a significant amount. The scoring has tanked. What's happening?
Towns.
The Towns effect.
It is. Listen, I love Randall. I miss Randall in that Knicks jersey. Don't get me wrong,
Mm,
but Randall has those days to where he's, whether he's on and he's dropping 35 points or he's completely off and he's dropping 7 and he went 1 for 20 or 2 for 20, on the court. It's one of those, that they have to learn each other's games. They have
mm.
to that chemistry, especially when you trade for Dante and Randall and you expect both of them to be a star.
Oh, lost my guy for a second. Don't worry, we'll get him back. Uh, but we're talking about viewership and the lack of viewership for this week. If you guys are just tuning in, we're trying to improve viewership. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Oh, he's back
Yeah, my
to the
bad.
TSA Hoops NBA show. So you were saying when you get a guy like
When you get like
DiVincenzo
DiVincenzo
and
and
Randall,
Randall and they're starting on the offense, it's all about chemistry and it's all about learning each other and how each other they play in each other's game. Randall plays that bully ball. You have to use Randall to his best ability in that bully ball. You know, DiVincenzo is one of those guys that is a spot up shooter. So, use them to their best ability. And once they learn how to do that, they will be better off. And, they'll start winning these games, and then eventually they'll start blowing teams out. Those are great guys. Listen, no, I'm not dissing them. I am upset that they both left because of the trade, but I'm also happy for them because they both deserve better. But right now, the Knicks are better, you know, and until and it's just like the Knicks too. Until they learn how to play with Cat and Brunson learns how to play with Cat, these teams are not going to be better, especially when you make a big trade like that. You know, so that's just, I mean, little words. I mean, that goes for any team, whether it's NFL, whether it's NBA, whether it's MLB. When you make big trades like that, these teams need to learn how to play with each other, and so they're able to, you know, play with each other. And once they are, it's over. Minnesota's going to be a top team in the league by the end of the season. I promise you on that.
Now,
You know who
you're
needs to
only
really
giving.
fix themselves is
Hmm,
Philly.
ugh.
That's who really needs
I
to
was trying
fix
to
them.
get out of I was trying to get out of here without talking about this, without
Yeah,
talking about Philly for like the 50th.
right.
I'm getting
But
this
the
on
Lakers,
camera.
no, listen. On a serious note, the Lakers though, I mean, they're fine. They have, they put their eggs in one basket and they're
Right,
trying to make it work. The
right,
whole Bronny and LeBron situation is cute.
right,
It's cute.
right,
It really is
right.
cute. I like it. I
Mm,
respect it. You know what I
mm.
mean? But you want to win championships or you want to play, father son games. Let's be
You want to
honest
talk?
here.
You want to talk about a team that always keeps its viewership consistent? The Lakers do no wrong in trying to keep their names in the media year after year after year, always doing something to keep themselves relevant in NBA talks is absolutely
Yeah,
insane.
like I said, it's cute. Don't get me wrong. I respect it. You know what I mean? But but end of the goal is to win a championship. So
True.
until you fix that and how to win a championship,
Yep.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Y'all did it to yourselves by drafting him.
We
So,
sure did.
you know,
Now, we can go on and on about fixing all 30 teams, the league. We didn't even really get to touch too much on All Star Weekend, which is probably have to be a whole nother segment at one point because that's going to be coming back up as an issue later on. And we're going to sort of experiment with, and we're going to talk about it through our various platforms on how to improve this in season tournament. Sorry, the Emirates NBA Cup games. We seem to be kicking off. I mean, when you have Atlanta beating Boston, that's uh, that's a huge game. That's must see TV. All in the talks of trying to improve NBA viewership, and we're gonna probably bring this back up in a couple of weeks as well. But we're going to wrap this up because we got to get out of here. We got to get back to what we do best, which is go touch grass and enjoy life and enjoy these
facts.
NBA games. But before we get out of here, don't forget, guys, to like and subscribe the channel. Hit that subscribe button if you want to tune in. We appreciate you guys tuning in today. 25 viewers, man. People have been watching. They've been watching. They've been listening. Don't forget that we are also on Spotify. You'll be able to listen to us there. Remember just to look for the name of the show, TSA Hoop Show with JR. Hot Tech, appreciate you, man, for
Of course,
tuning
brother.
in with us
Always.
today. Before we get out of there, before we get out of here, man, we appreciate you always tuning in. You always give us a hot take in and out on any platform on X. Follow you at Hot Take City. Man, give us a hot take before you get out of here, man.
Cleveland ends up the season with a losing record.
That is brutal.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That is brutal.
Very
We have you
brutal.
on tape, sir. The FBI is going to investigate you if that actually happens.
Hey man.
You better not be sneaking into the facility and doing nothing, man. Sitting there with Tanya Harding. Donovan Mitchell, come here. Bam. One time with the crowbar. We appreciate you, man. We are out of
Of
here. You
course, brother.
guys, thank you for tuning in. Have a great weekend. We are out of here.